All right, we move on to priority business. Our student representative is not with us this evening, so we move on to the building committee update. Greg, I believe that's you, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello. I have met Mr. Mack. My name is Greg Lavasser.
Nice to meet you, sir.
High School Building Committee. And you'll be seeing me every month for as long as we're both doing this. This is March. Just to let you know that the Building Committee has filed its first submittals to the Mass School Building Authority. The education plan that you got a copy of last month was submitted along with several scenarios of renovations or additions to the property. Mass School Building Assistance has 2 weeks for staff to review it, critique it, and kick it back to us. And we have 2 weeks from that point to refine it and take care of any deficiencies that they point out and get it back to them so that in April, that plan would then become part of the record for the project moving forward. In the interim, the building committee, we meet every Wednesday. We're going to stretch that out to 2 weeks between meetings so that the architect can get a little more detail to some of the plans, as we saw last night. The architect did have a more detailed floor plan. They're starting to what's called populate the spaces. What you saw before was just different blobs of blocks, add, delete, move them around. Now they're actually putting classrooms, hallways, things of that nature, so people have an idea what it looks like. You're going to see some elevations on these sort of side views so that you know what floor you're on, so that it gives you some better sense of what the campus would look like in each of these scenarios. So we're still working towards submitting the final proposals for the MSBA in May so that they can meet at their meeting in June and vote on the proposals from the building committee and this project so that we have between June of this year and April of next year to refine the plans, refine the budget, and go to the 4 towns in the region for funding for the project. Our owner project manager, Daedalus Corporation, and Mr. Marks has been working hard to make a better case to MSBA about a larger reimbursement for the state for the NASA project. The original idea from MSBA was we get maybe 38 to 40%. He's looking to increase that by another 4 to 5% so that we could get more money from the state whenever this project goes forward. Every little bit helps, and we go on from there. In the last bunch of submissions we sent you, there are 9 different scenarios. We've whittled those down to 6, and those 6 now have a range of numbers applied to them. Don't get married to the numbers. It's just a range. Those ranges will be refined as we go forward, and the range of in numbers is included only construction. So what you have when you want to buy furniture, books, curtains, desks, that type of stuff, is not included in those numbers. That generally adds 25 to 30% more, depending on what level of equipment you want to buy for the project moving forward. So that's where we are today. Any questions?
Excellent. We have any questions for Greg? Yes, Jim.
Greg, could you give us an idea of the 6 options that are still on the table? What, sort of like the beginning and the end of those 6 options?
I'll do the beginning and the end first. The beginning is what's required by Mass School Building Authority is that you renovate the existing buildings only, just to bring them up to the energy code, the accessibility code, so all the existing buildings would stay, and that's all you do. The other end of the spectrum is that you abandon the whole campus as we know it today and build a whole new set of structures or structure. That's the 2 range limits. And those are required to make sure we do our due diligence for MSBA. In the middle, we have 3 to 4 different options where we will take part of a building, and I'll use the easiest one is part of the cafeteria gets chopped out, and all the rest of the buildings get renovated. The next scenario is the whole cafeteria gets chopped out in its present spot, and half of another classroom building gets demolished because those spaces have issues with how you can renovate them, how they tie into the rest of the campus, and how they tie into any new additions. And so the other options are a little more demolition, a little more new construction. The end product is that at the present time, we have 181,265 square feet. The final project, as we are envisioning it, will have 221,000 square feet. So we need to have roughly 40,000 square feet to the campus to fulfill the education plan that was designed and brought forward and submitted to the state. We need more spaces for general classrooms, special projects or programs that the NRSC school system wants to include, and justify those types of things to the state for them to sign off on the project, so then we can move forward to sell it to the towns and get as much information out to folks as possible.
Other questions? Yes, John?
Just for our listening audience, when you say remodel, it's really a complete gut job of the existing spaces.
When I say remodel, is that if you know the campus at all, you have poured in place concrete structure. That's all the vertical pieces you see and some horizontal pieces. In between that is just infilled block wall. All those walls and windows would disappear because you have to make the envelope of the building much more energy efficient, and you have to increase the size of the classroom. So all those things would change. So you'd still have the sense of what was there for the last 40 some odd years, but the interiors would all be new. And last night's meeting was focused a lot on energy efficiency, different levels of that. And as you go up the ladder of efficiency, the costs increase. So they are looking for, we give them some kind of direction for what to bring forward the next time. And some things we may not be able to hit for energy efficiency. There's one program where they include the amount of fuel being burned to get to the campus. So every student, every bus, every parent who drives to the high school we'd get docked points for energy inefficiency. Obviously, that's for a program that's close to a major city where they have public transportation. So I don't think we'll be able to hit that target, but we are looking at a lot of different options to get that.
Other questions? Yes, Bob?
I'm interested in the education plan.
Mm-hmm.
When we received it, it's asked us if we would edit it.
Mm-hmm.
How can we be helpful in getting those editings back to you?
Well, did you send something in already, Mr. Sinclair? Okay, that went right to the team at the high school, from the committee who did the program, the educational program, and they submitted the plan with whatever comments you made up to Boston. And Boston, as I just said, has 2 weeks to vet that, and they'll send it back with their recommended changes, and then we have 2 weeks again after we get that copy, and we'll get that to you as well, so we can make those edits as well.
So members on the school board could send the edits to the principal?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay?
Can you give us an idea of the cost and the two ends of the continuum with the ranges?
I'm gonna, I don't have the paper in front of me. I'm gonna say between $50 million and $120 million for construction. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Okay?
The third thing is, what's the status of the swimming pool?
It's in limbo. We did get the report. The report will go out to the committee, but as I said in all these meetings, a swimming pool is not part of the educational plan. MSBA wants nothing to do with a swimming pool. And I've told folks who talk about a swimming pool, you need to organize a group of citizens to form a coalition, if you will, that would get their own funding and their own site work and their own operational costs to put a swimming pool, and then have to talk to the school committee about adding a structure on the campus that is not owned by the school department. And that number that they need to deal with at the beginning is $10 million. That's what a swimming pool of consequence would cost as a low number for construction.
I ask because in going to 3 of the forums,
Mm-hmm.
out of the 4, in each of those forums, people were very interested in that.
Yes, they were. But to my knowledge, so far they have not come forward with a organized group yet. I found out last night they're starting to organize, but nothing really concrete yet.
Thank you.
Yes, Ed?
Having worked in that building since it was brand new, the one thing that always gave me a lot of trouble was the ventilation.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get back into school in September, the buildings are so hot, you could hardly stay in them because of the way the windows were put in.
Yeah.
It didn't ventilate.
Right.
And I was hoping that would be on part of your things to-do list, is to make the ventilation better. I'm not asking for air conditioning, I'm just saying ventilation.
Well, you don't have to hope, because part of the code requirements was to bring it up to HVAC requirements, which mean you have a minimum of 13 air changes per hour in each space. So we either do that mechanically, fans and air handlers and that type of thing. There is a request for several forms that Mr. Sinclair alluded to, people want the whole campus air conditioned, but air conditioning every space then fights the opposite side of the equation, where you want more energy efficiency, because air conditioning costs money and it's not very efficient. So there'll be a combination of air conditioning and what's called controlled air, but it's a blended air system where they'll add certain things to dehumidify and dry out the air and move that air around so it feels more comfortable. And of course, the envelopes of the buildings would all be increased in insulation, so that the buildings themselves would be much more controllable. You don't have a lot of exposed concrete on the inside, that type of thing.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons that they got to be so hot was because the windows were down near the floor instead of up near the ceiling where the heat could leave.
Yep.
And they sit there all summer and bake in the sun, and it's just like an oven. And it would be that way for about a month or a month and a half when you first went back to school.
Yep.
But, so.
That'll all be addressed. That'll be all taken care of.
John?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, but didn't our project manager state that if our design plans included a pool and pool building, that the MSBA has the ability to pull out of the entire project?
That was not a comment by the OPM. It was through a conversation that Mr. Nowak had with Mary Pacheco, I
That's
believe is her
right.
last name. I'm at MSBA. So, again, it's kind of like those big red flag for the building committee. Don't present anything, don't put it on the plans, that type of thing, so, yeah.
I think it's important for people, because the pool, it was very popular at all the seminars, so I think it's important for them to understand.
Other questions? Yes, Jim?
Greg, you mentioned that the space was going up about 40,000. How does the 220,000 compare to, I think our student number is 905, and I know the state has standards on a square footage basis, so if you did that formula, what would you need space-wise,
220,000 square feet.
Okay.
We are within the guidelines, within the template of what MSBA will fund and what they would generally see for a high school of 905 students.
I think that's a significant point, once we get to an option or two and what the costs are, that to touch this, the state is requiring a higher standard square footage than what we currently have. And at 40,000, that's a real cost factor, so.
Yep.
I think it's important to continue to underscore that.
Other questions for Greg? Excellent. Thank you very much.
Have a good
Appreciate
evening.
it.